Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Blum Show. I hope everyone had a good week or so. I was kind of busy last week, and I did not get to go on air as I usually would. But that's going to be a rarity. Usually we're doing the Michael Blum Show here from 9 to 11 p.m., 11 p.m.-ish. 10:30, 11 p.m., depending on the calls and what we happen to be talking about. Feel free to give us a call this evening. The phone number here is 800-699-0980. Again, 800-699-0980. I had a phenomenal Mother's Day. I hope everyone out there really did, and I hope that you celebrate women and mothers just because of what they are and who they are, and how responsible the world really is to women and to moms in general. Mine was very interesting because my folks, thank God, they are still alive. So I have my mother, my wife, the mother of my children, and my child with her child. So we had 4 generations of Blum stuff. Okay, 4 generations of Blum stuff going on, and that was really a thrill for me. I really enjoyed it. I want to thank Jesse Miller there for sharing the video. I do appreciate sharing this around. Welcome, Fred. I see there are a couple of people that are joining us again on this evening. You know, I was on the air last, there's been a couple of things that have happened. The most notable, obviously, is the firing of Comey. But, you know, I thought maybe that we should just look at a couple of things because the media seems to be not really reporting any real news anymore. There actually is no such thing as the media. I want to give you my theory. The Democratic Party, as we know it today, is really quite different than the Democrats of Truman and of Kennedy and of Johnson. All those people, they're gone. They're gone. What you have now really is this leftist regime, which to me, the Democrats are a splinter group. They are just absolutely get hysterical about everything, whether or not it has any meaning at all. And I know that they particularly hate Trump. We've got that, Democratic folk. You don't like the guy. There's a lot of people who don't like the guy. I don't really care whether you like the guy or not. He is the duly elected president of the United States, and that's something you got to realize, that you were defeated. And if you don't realize that, then I think Trump is missing the mark, and he has to make you feel pulverized and defeated. And I'm hoping he will do that. But getting back, there is no such thing as the Democratic Party. This is the Democratic Party, my opinion. Okay, you have the media. Okay, and you have the actual Democrats, like Congress, stuff like that. Okay. Between those two, it's kind of blurred for me because I don't know who was really the people with any brains or thinking there, or who's producing all this stuff. My feeling is right now is that the Democrats, since they have no real issues, they don't really stand for anything anymore. I think they just take their lead from the media. That's about it. They just take their lead from the media. So basically, I think the media right now is running the show, and they're having a good time at it. They would love to relive Watergate. You know that? I mean, you're going to see that a little bit now because of this Comey stuff that went on. Oh, Watergate. There's a cover. You'll hear the exact same words. They're trying to relive the glory that they had, the media, because the media felt like, wow, we can get rid of a president if we want. And they'd love to go ahead and repeat that again. So that's what pretty much that they're about, and I think their mentality. There is no balance there. There is no real news there. That's a subsidiary effect of news right now. How much have you heard about North Korea this week? I mean, have you heard anything about what the UN is doing about it? Well, maybe blowing up the world is more important than the firing of the FBI director, you know? But you'd never know that from the media, because the media really isn't media. It's the Democratic Party. So, folks, don't bother listening to them, or take them with not a grain of salt, but take them with a couple of pounds of salt, because basically they are the left-leaning part of the Democratic Party. Period. That's it. It's the same thing as if you were talking to Schumer or any of those other guys. You will never get anything other than a biased, tilted report from media as it stands right now. Now, what do I mean by media? I guess I should clarify that a little bit. I don't mean everybody in the world. I don't mean every nasty thing in the world. I mean, pretty much ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, LA Times, Washington Post, New York Times. I mean, that's basically it. There are other outlets that are a little bit more amenable to actually reporting news. But I'm sure you really don't know what's going on there, other than may have heard that the missile was fired. Well, so what? Now what? What did the Chinese respond to that? How did all that happen? Maybe what I should do every week is like to pick up maybe one segment or 20 minutes or something, actually talk about the real news and stuff that's going on. How about the economy? You hear much about the economy? It's doing a little bit better. Of course, that's because of Obama, you see. Obama stuff what happened when he was, well, now Trump is experiencing all of the wonderful things that Obama promised. Of course, nonsense. I don't even think it has to do with Trump at this point. I mean, he's not in office that long. So let's give him a quarter, 3 months or so in office and take it from there. And then maybe you can make some statements about it. But again, getting back, you have the Democratic Party itself, then you have the media. Now, the other piece that you have is Hollywood, which is actually a subsidiary of media. Okay, the Hollywood elitists live in their own little bubble, their own little world. They are basically, in my opinion, a dime a dozen. They are probably the luckiest group of people in the United States because they're given fame and they're given tons of money, and sometimes they actually think they know, when basically all I want them to do is to dance like a monkey, from a grinder. Go ahead, I want to go ahead and listen to a singer. Go ahead and sing. I don't really care about your political opinion. Yeah, I'm sure you have one, and could certainly go ahead and post it and do it, but that's not a big deal. So Hollywood comes into play here, and that's why you get Obama, who's hanging out with JC and Beyonce and as many Hollywood folks as he possibly can, because they have lots of money to give to Democrats. Are they truly great? There must be, for any great actress, another 1,000 or so that are as good or better. Same thing for musicians. Tons of great musicians, tons of great singers. When I was, my undergraduate degree is in music, and when I was a performer, basically that's the case. I mean, they used to say musicians are a dime a dozen, and they say that because it is absolutely true. So when you get someone who becomes amazingly famous, most of them, not all, but most of them could be replaced by someone who sings just as well or plays that instrument just as well or better. They're lucky. They happen to be in the right place, and now they have tons of money. So they become part of this mix because, first of all, most of them are not really well educated, and they are actually like a branch of the media in a way because they make the movies and do all that stuff. They're all high rollers with lots of money, and Democrats love people with lots of money. And so they're part of that too. So you have the media, you have the Democrats, and then you have a fourth group, which to me now makes up the entire Democratic Party. And those are I would call them the enslaved poor. These are people that must depend on the government to go ahead and get any type of sustenance. And they may be second, third, fourth generation welfare people. They have no intentions of moving out of that, not because they don't want to, but because they've never been told how to. If you want to see the poorest poverty, the worst crime in the United States, and the worst policing, the worst school systems, go to any of the major cities that Democrats have run for 50 years. And there you will find it. There you will find that. These are people that basically this government is, and they wrote them off. I mean, let's say Hillary Clinton could really give a damn about them. They don't have the money. They don't have the money. They can't provide her with a lot of graft, and there's no way to suck money out of them. Okay, so basically they become Democrats because they're getting the dole from the Democrats. And the Democrats always say, oh, if a Republican gets in, that's going to be the end of that. You're going to die. You're going to be in the street. You're going to have illness. You're going to throw grandma off of the cliff in a wheelchair, and children will die in the streets. And they wrap themselves around the children. Oh, the children. God save the children. I guess unless you want to do a late-term abortion, then that's okay. You can kill them. So it's a weird group out there. But basically, that is the Democratic Party today. It is the media, Hollywood, the actual Democrats that are in Congress, and the enslaved poor that can't do anything. Why do you think the Democrats want to have open borders? Do you think it's because they love people? That increases their enslaved poor base. You see, if we can get many, many more enslaved poor people, put them on the dole, they'll become Democrats for life because they'll be afraid. I mean, When Romney was running, Grandma was gonna die, and there were horrible things going on, and Bain Capital has to be looked into, and I mean the Democrats have the same playbook all the time. What's shocking to me is that the Republicans are so stupid that they allow it to continue and go on. Okay, they have to realize they're being played. Does it feel like to anyone out there that the Republicans won? They won big, and they've been winning big. The Democratic Party represents very few people to me right now. Um, that's just how it is. I mean, if you look at the Electoral College map, it looks like someone painted the whole map red, but the guys who actually picked the map up, they had blue paint on their fingers, and so you got the left coast and the right coast. A couple of people maybe in South Florida, and maybe some people up in Chicago. But basically, that whole map is red. Hey Jim, how you doing this evening? Basically, that whole map is red, and it's red because people want to see change, and the people are not stupid, as Obama's, what was his name, John Rubin or something like that, the guy who's the mastermind of Obamacare, who basically said that this could only happen because Americans are stupid. And and so basically you have those four groups which make up the Democratic Party today. To me, it's becoming a fringe organization of leftists that don't stand for anything. I mean, I've always asked, I said, why doesn't someone who is a Democrat call up and really tell me how they feel about issues? And I think how they feel about issues is Obama is great, Obama is great. I think sometimes in the Democratic Party, as we stand right now, they are way more concerned with Obama's legacy than doing anything good for the United States, that's for sure. So what I would do if I was Trump is I would try my best to dismantle everything and make sure that legacy ceases to exist, because the legacy is horrible. It's the legacy of Iran deal. It's the legacy of lying to the people about Obamacare. It's the legacy of Benghazi and lying about that. It's the gun running that was done in Arizona. That's the legacy of the Obama administration, creating a racial divide in this country and seeing everyone as an objectified ID rather than as a human being. Forget about Martin Luther King. I mean, content of your character? Please. Old news, isn't it? He must be spinning in his grave, because just about everything that he's amounted to has not happened. Has become mush. People really thought that Obama would actually change things around, and he would wind up being, someone who could actually start a post-racial United States. And to be quite honest, he could have done that. He could have done a post-racial United States. He just that's not what he is. He's a community organizer, rabble-rouser. And that's the only thing he can do. And I guess he's going to go back to that. Now, Obama. There's some things also in the news. I don't know if you heard about it. And this is Obamacare, that Aetna, Humana, Molina Healthcare are all going to be pulling out of the Obamacare pools. They're all going to be pulling out of all of the Obamacare pools. And they're going to leave a whole bunch of different states in a real mess. This guy Berger, I think his name is John Berger, he was on Chris Wallace. He tried to blame Trump for the problems with Obamacare. It's like, well, until Trump came in, no one was leaving. Well, that's not true, and that has nothing to do with it. And I think maybe Trump's original idea of just letting it completely fall apart, and then saying, hey, look, what do you want to do, Democrats? Do you want to join us and do this or not? And their answer will be no, because Trump is doing it. You see how the Democrats can, flip on a dime. 2 weeks ago, maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, the enemy of the Democrats was Comey. Trump fired him, which is his prerogative to do. There's nothing wrong with that. And now the world is falling apart. They want to make you believe that because this guy got fired, now it's because of collusion with the Russians, which we'll get into some of that today. But basically, it's a big deal about nothing. I mean, the last one that was the last FBI director that was fired by our president was Clinton, and Waters did go crazy, but that's because Waters is crazy, by the way. But basically, Because you have a new head of the department doesn't mean that investigation. So what do you think? You think Comey was out there like a gumshoe, like with a little hat on his head and like Sherlock Holmes looking for clues? That is how stupid Democrats think you are. So you'll have North Korea blowing up missiles. You'll have different healthcare companies leaving the Obamacare exchanges, but you don't really hear that too much in the news. They may say that near the end of the show, but I mean, they spent on CNN. They spent 20 minutes talking about the fact that Trump had 2 scoops of ice cream when the Russians came to visit, rather than one like everyone else was served. You know what it must mean? This is because, you see, he's the bourgeois, okay? And he thinks he is so much better than all of them that he could have 2 scoops of ice cream instead of... Does it sound like a child or what? This sound like you're in elementary school? He had 2 scoops of ice cream and I only had one. Oh my God. I want to know what flavors they were too. I don't know. Hi, Deb. Welcome. Um, Feel free to give me a call if you'd like. 800-699-0980. 866-0980. So Obamacare falling apart. He's been something else. Baracking it up. And that's kind of, I think, what we should be talking about a little bit. Just see if there's anything else. Increases. Obviously, there are going to be increases to Obamacare. The premiums for Affordable Care Act will be more than 20%. They'll go up 20%. According to data compiled by their signups, by the ACA signups. You see, you have to go ahead for this to work. Okay, it's the failure to force the individual mandate. In other words, the government has to force you to buy a product, which is illegal. But Obama got away with it because of the Supreme Court that looked at Obamacare as a tax, which Obamacare said it just was not. But since, I mean, Democrats flip on the dime and really don't care. I don't know how it is that someone could be a Democrat. They have to have absolutely no shame, and they have to be phenomenal hypocrites to go ahead and do what they do and say what they say. But basically, the government must force you to pay, you young folk that don't need this particular coverage, or the whole thing falls apart. It's just a big giant, it's a big giant Ponzi scheme. Now, my answer is really, really different. And I can go on here about different states that have so few people in them. The state of Connecticut is going to have 2 insurers. Maryland's going to have 4. And Virginia is going to have, I think, 6. And the average premium increases go from 25% up to about 50%. So there, that works really well. Now, my feeling about all this is a little bit different, too. Because, you see, about 10 years ago, from my recollection, the United States still had a pretty decent healthcare system. Yes, there were 20 to 40 million people, depending on who you read or where you went, that did not have medical insurance. Guess how many don't have medical insurance today? It's the same amount. It's the same amount. So what I think really is that all of this stuff, there are certain things that don't involve the government and shouldn't. If local states want to go ahead and do this, that's fine. But the government should not be in the business of anything, particularly in the insurance business. That's what it's like. You got to realize where we are today, folks. You have a Congress that's an elected group of people, and they don't write legislation anymore. Lobbyists, insurance companies, the people who you elected to actually be legislative members sit there and do very little. They're not doing anything anymore. I mean, I heard the last senator that actually read bills by himself and made judgments on them by themselves was Kennedy, John Kennedy. It's a long way off. So we have this is also like this is the new elite. So I don't even look at things so much as Democrat and Republican anymore. I look at it basically as establishment and non-establishment. And it's going to be tough to get rid of the establishment. Donald drained the swamp. You should have gotten rid of Comey on the first day. You should have gotten rid of every single federal judge appointed by Obama the first day. You seriously must drain this swamp, or they're going to drain you. You have an awesome opportunity, and you've been given a lot of support by people who, I mean, despite all this Comey absolute nonsense, really, absolute nonsense. He basically has uh, um, he's basically starting this process of draining the swamp, but it's not happening quick enough for me. Certainly not quick enough for me. And the idea. So what I'm saying basically is that I think there should be no federal law in regard to health insurance. Period. It has nothing to do with that. The federal government is not in the business of selling insurance. Maybe the states want to do that. That's their prerogative. That's why it's the United States. But the federal government, you get involved with a business enterprise where they're selling insurance. You got to realize that the government does like just about nothing correctly. They can't mail a goddamn letter without losing money. The largest hospital system in the world is the VA system. You really want to see some socialized medicine, go to the VA system. That was really good. Just let people die. The United States government can't do anything well. Loses money on everything. The only place it seems that they spend a lot of time and money and they actually do really, really well is with the IRS. And of course, then they can use it as the Gestapo against people they don't like or political enemies and all that stuff. You know, I mean, Obama, not a smidgen of corruption in the IRS. That must be why Lois Lerner had to take the Fifth Amendment about 50 times. Well, not a smidgen of corruption. Democrats, how can you support a party where you have people that are just blatant liars? How do you trust someone like that? Oh, I get you hate Trump, 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 you hate Trump. We got that. Now say something that like is meaningful. And I bet it's hard to do because you can't. You can't say it. Because there's very little to say. Very little to say. So basically this government can't do a goddamn thing. So why should they be involved with health care? Let it go back to how it was. If the states want to do stuff, that's fine, like Romney Care. They want to do that, that's fine. I had talked a long time ago about, let's see what else we got here. Oh, Obama. Okay. Obama racking it in. I'm curious how people feel about the fact that the President of the United States basically has a $60 million book deal and $400,000 speaking engagements to the people who he said were the worst people in the world. Obviously now they're not that bad, and that would be Wall Street, people with money. And I understand he's going to start his own little slush fund. He's going to learn from the Clintons a couple of things. You know, I think that Hillary learned a ton from him. She knows how to be subversive really, really well now. But in terms of the other way around, Barack has learned a little bit from her too. What he's learned from her is go ahead and just to be able to funnel money and get money in and kind of suck the constituents. So when you see these people going nuts like Waters going crazy, that's because it helps the donors. The donors will give money. They go, look at that, and they give money for that. But how to really be behind them is like, it's beyond me. It is the party of no, which is what the Republicans were called when Obama was in, and I'm sure there was a lot of no there. But this is just relentless hatred. Some of it is so ridiculous, it's unbelievable. I don't think I have a clip of it. I don't think I could find it, but basically there was... they were talking to federal judges in the Ninth Circuit Court, and they said basically that the law, which doesn't really, the travel ban, if you will, which doesn't mention Muslims at all, it's just a ban from people in certain countries. They said that's not constitutional because of something that Trump said before he was the president. So they had asked him, they said, well, if the same law then was given to you and it was Hillary Clinton that gave it to you, is it now constitutional? Oh, yes, now it is. So how could something be not constitutional if one person does it, and it is constitutional if another person does it? And the answer to that is Trump did it. Jammu Green, who was one of the people who was running to run the DNC, was asked by Tucker Carlson on one of the shows that I was watching, said, you know, President Obama has for many, many years been trying to reduce the price of prescription drugs. Donald Trump has an interest in that as well. If he's able to do the exact same thing, if he's able to do the exact same thing and lower all of those rates, would you support him? And guess what the answer is? No, no, I don't think so. I don't think I could support him because, I'd have to read the law. Da, da, da. He said, well, let's say it's the same. It's exactly what Obama wants. And the thing is that Trump could develop the cure for cancer, and the media will report it as no good, that there's something wrong, that it's terrible, that he's in collusion. Okay, so basically, that's where we're at with them. I mean, it's unbelievable. So Barack Obama now, so he has a $60 million book deal, $400,000 speaking engagements. He's starting a little slush fund of his own. Does this sound familiar? This is Clinton. So that's the piece I think that he got out of it. He got out of some of the Clinton stuff, the way to suck money and go ahead and do it. Um, Unbelievable to me. And to top it all off, he's very, very much into climate control, and global warming. So when he goes to this conference, how does he go? Does he go like a jet? No, 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 no. He hires his own jet. And then when he gets there, what does he do? Does he go ahead and go there? He does with a 14-car caravan, following him. He makes the largest CO2 and green gas footprint out of anybody. But you see, that's how it is if you're a Democrat. Well, don't do as I do, just do what I say. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. Because if you don't believe me, whatever you say, we're going to say is going to be hate speech. And we're going to try to make the Constitution so that hate speech is no longer covered by the First Amendment. Democrats, liberals, progressives, progressing us to the point of jumping off the ship like rats. Unbelievable with him. So that's also Barack Obama, And I bet you he had 2 scoops of ice cream for everyone that anyone else had too. But you won't hear that anyway. Won't hear that anyway. So maybe, the presidents get quite... Hey, Jimmy D. Welcome, and welcome to Periscope. Maybe sometimes I get thrown off when I read some of the comments, but I think they're important. Better you give me a call. The number here is 800-699-0980. 800-699-0980. And by the way, I had an issue with this maybe 2 weeks ago when we were doing it. Please do not call me during a break. If there's a break, I don't pick up phones, okay, because I'm usually taking the break too. I'm not in the studio right now. I'm producing this by myself for a while. Just got tired of working at WWNN for a multitude of reasons. But feel free to give me a call, 800-699-0980. Obama, absolutely wonderful. What is the legacy? Obama legacy. Thanks, Obama. This is from an article. This is from the BizPack. And BizPack is a conservative news group. I always like to say where I'm getting my stuff from here, and this way you could, if someone was shocked, they said to me like a week or two ago, boy, you sound like you're really, really a partisan person. And basically I've become that more and more because there's so little that I can actually relate to on the left. I mean, where do you negotiate? We want free open borders, anyone can come in. Of course, their houses have like gates and compounds and walls, the Democrats. But you see, again, as long as you don't put it where they are, they're happy with it. Put some of those refugees in Bel Air and put some of them in Malibu, and you see how that works. I like a family of maybe 40 Somalis. Go ahead in Malibu. I think that would be wonderful, don't you? I mean, they love them out there. You can support them and do everything that they say they're going to do. Boy. Anyway, so let's see. To me, there's no question that Obama really, he's anti-Jewish, anti-Israel. He threw Israel under the bus and is trying to make Iran the state of power in the Middle East. So I don't know really what you could go ahead and say about his legacy. What's his legacy? I mean, even Trump said something, I think, at one point in time that he has to renegotiate the Iran deal. Well, what is it to renegotiate? They have everything. They got all the money back already. They can go ahead and just report whatever they want. There's no way you can go in and check anything out. What are you negotiating with them? You think they're going to negotiate now? What for what? For what purpose? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But that's where we are right now. So I'll continue with this a little bit. I did want to get into a couple of things. Maybe we'll do that and then take a break. So, they have everything they need. And the other thing that really bothers me is this nonsense with Donald Trump and the Russian conspiracy theory, which wasn't a theory until it really wasn't I should say, it wasn't a media event theory until Clinton lost. Now, supposedly they're doing all of this investigating on Trump since, I read a report that said from March today, but most of them say from July or August of last year. Never heard about any of this, not until she lost. Then they made up the narrative, and now they just have to back the narrative up, because they're hoping that you are as stupid as you were with Obamacare, where you can have a guy lie to your face and you'll believe it. They're hoping you're that stupid that you'll think that this is true. And they figure they'll say it enough, and they'll say it enough, and then so it will be. So it will be. What I'd like to do is I'm going to start my own little theory here. You see, Obama gave the Iranians millions and millions of dollars in cash. You know why people give cash? That's a question. What's the answer? To hide stuff. Who would give a foreign government bills, send a plane with cash on it? So I could just assume and say, you know what? I think Obama actually had a deal with the Iranians, and they kicked back millions and millions of dollars now that are sitting in some a numbered bank account, a Swiss bank account or something like that, and Obama is sucking off of that and living off of that, and he made millions of dollars out of the United States. Do I have proof of that? No. Do you have proof that Trump colluded with Russia? No. Same difference. Why don't we run that one for a while? And start an FBI investigation on nothing? You know, these morons, they always say that, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, that's not true. If you ever try to start a fire, first of all, you get your smoke. To get the fire is a lot harder, and sometimes doesn't happen at all. So if you're trying to start a fire, all you get is smoke. And that's where you're at right now. That's all they have is smoke. And before I go take the break, I'm going to before I take a break, I'm going to play just a little clip from the past, because particularly Democrats tend to forget things from one day to another. They can flip-flop and be as hypocritical as they can because that's just how they are, and for some reason it's okay for them. So just as a reminder.
Your running mate, Governor Pence, pledged on Sunday that he and you, his words, will absolutely accept the result of this election. Today, your daughter Ivanka said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it.
There is a tradition in this country, in fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner. Not saying that you're necessarily going to be the loser or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner, and that the country comes together in part for the good of the country. Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris, let me respond to that.
Let's listen to the Queen.
Horrifying. Every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. The FBI conducted a year-long investigation into my emails. They concluded there was no case. He said the FBI was rigged. He lost the Iowa caucus. He lost the Wisconsin primary. He said the Republican primary was rigged against him. Then Trump University gets sued for fraud and racketeering. He claims the court system and the federal judge is rigged against him. There was even a time when he didn't get an Emmy for his TV program 3 years in a row, and he started tweeting that the Emmys were rigged against him.
Should have gotten it.
This is a mindset. This is how Donald thinks. And it's funny, but it's also really troubling.
So there you have it. And you can almost take every single point that she just said and turn it around. You know, the other thing that you notice over time, basically, is that the leftists pretty much, when they tell you what's happening somewhere, and this is going to sound a little cryptic, I'll try to like get it in better phraseology, but basically, when they tell you about the corruption with the Russians, they are saying that because their mindset is that it's okay to be corrupt with the Russians. I mean, Senator Kennedy went to the Kremlin to try to go ahead and stop things and to try to impede the election of Reagan. We know this because when the Soviet Union fell apart, all of these records were released. So he actually did collude with the Russians to go ahead and try to force an election. Okay, so this is in their bag of shtick, their bag of tricks, their bag of crap, and they're used to that. So when you hear these things, they're saying it because for them, that's kind of business as usual on their side. Once they get in, you think that they would give the Republicans the time of day? You know, I don't really think they would give them the time of day. I think that, let's see, that they wouldn't. I mean, let's hear. This is after Obama. After Obama
We
got
got to have
elected.
middle class families up in front. We can't. We don't mind the Republicans joining us. They can come for the ride, but they got to sit in back.
What do you think he meant by that? We don't care if the Republicans come for the ride, but they got to sit in the back. Sit in the back of what? What is that? What is he talking about there? Sit in the back. Where have you heard that before? Should I be so bold? He's comparing them to blacks in the 40s and 50s that needed to sit in the backs of the bus. What's he calling the Republicans? What's on this idiot's mind? Unreal. Folks, we'll be back in a couple of minutes, and you are listening to Michael Blum, and I'll speak to you about a whole bunch of other things. We'll talk about the Three Stooges. That would be Comey, Clapper, and Brennan when we return, and enjoy.